Je vous dis toujours que le meilleur moyen d'être plus naturel en anglais est de regarder des séries et des films. Mais j'avoue, je me suis peut-être trompée. Parce qu'en regardant la nouvelle saison de Bridgerton, je me suis rendu compte qu'il y a quelque chose qu'il ne faut absolument pas imiter. On en parle aujourd'hui. Let's get straight into it with a clip that I think illustrates what I'm talking about really well. Pay attention and see if you notice anything that sounds a little bit unnatural.
What is your name?
Why did you rescue me?
It is rare to see someone beaming with joy at one of these things.
When was the last time you said, "What is your name?" Yeah, I don't know if I've ever said that. What is instead of what's. It is instead of its. There were no contractions. And that is what I would like to talk about today, contractions in English. Why doesn't Bridgerton use them? And why should you use them? First of all, what are contractions? Quite simply, they are the removal of usually a syllable replaced by an apostrophe. So maybe the most well-known contraction is the not contraction, where we see N''T, like don't, didn't, won't, can't. But we can also contract verbs like to be, to have, usually auxiliary verbs, and modal verbs. So I'm, she's, we've, you'll, etc. And why do we use contractions? Well, because it's just easier to say less. And it also helps us to squish a lot more into a short space, which is important for maintaining that rhythm of English. I talk about the rhythm of English in this video, so go and have a look if you haven't seen it. But if contractions are so useful, so beautiful, why do we hardly hear them in Bridgerton? If you hadn't noticed, Bridgerton is a period drama. So it's set in the Regency era in the early 19th century. And while we don't know for sure how people spoke at that time, because unfortunately we didn't have Snapchat, WhatsApp voice notes, what we do have are written records of the language. So while, of course, written language is always different from spoken language, if we just go by written communications, namely novels and letters, that contractions were very much out of fashion, let's say, especially among the upper classes. Let's take an example of Pride and Prejudice. Now, if we compare the use of contractions in Pride and Prejudice to basically a modern version of Pride and Prejudice, Bridget Jones's Diary, I've crunched the numbers. And in Bridget Jones's Diary, we see 448 occurrences of the not contraction, N''T, and only 13 in Pride and Prejudice. And when you read the works of Jane Austen, you'll notice that these contracted forms, they're always in dialogues, and they're often used between characters of lower classes. We even see that a little bit in Bridgerton. Let's see this clip here of one of the maids speaking.
They are here.
I've set everything exactly as you would have done it. You've nothing to worry about.
So here we've heard 3 contractions in a very short space of time. I've, you've, and you've. So even in Bridgerton, these contractions, we can see that they exist, but they're again being used to signal class. Now back to today, how will you sound if you avoid contractions today? A lot of learners tell me that they see contractions as extremely informal and not using contractions as the norm. But I'm here to tell you it's totally the opposite. Using contractions is the norm, and not using them is not actually just super formal even. It's not even about formality. It's so stiff and robotic. We often associate not using contractions with robots or with non-native speech. And a little side note, that is something that really freaks me out with ChatGPT's voice model. Not just, its intonation, which is so natural, but its use of contractions really makes it sound like a real person. It's scary.
I'm designed to mirror how humans naturally communicate. Our speech is full of rhythm, variety, and subtle cues. But don't worry, there's no actual human behind the scenes, just a lot of clever engineering.
That's scary.
I'm glad you...
Oh! That is terrifying. Stop listening to me. Okay. Of course, there still are scenarios in modern day English where people might avoid contractions. A great example would be like a scientific article, or even news articles tend to avoid contractions. However, when they quote people, they still include those contractions that have been used. But we might choose not to use a contraction for emphasis. For example, I cannot do that, or I will see you there. Maybe in some kind of scripted formal speech, contractions might be used less, but I think they would still be used. Let's have a look. Let's get a clip of the British Prime Minister doing, let's find a scripted speech first.
It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue.
So we heard, it is not the right way, but then we heard, I've been so clear on this issue. So he's definitely avoided natural contractions, but we've still got one here. Let's see if we can get him maybe speaking a little bit in a less scripted way.
Just off to the Bank of China today and then up to Shanghai. Before I do that, I'm going outside to say thank you to the embassy staff who've worked so hard to make this trip a success.
Very good. We've got, I'm going outside to see the staff who've worked so hard. This is probably still a little bit scripted. He's the Prime Minister. He's like, oh my gosh, a camera, I didn't know. But he is not giving, right, a formal scripted speech. So this use of contractions really is a great technique to make people feel more comfortable, to make you seem warmer and more at ease in the language. Even in emails, I noticed that non-native English speakers tend to avoid contractions. And honestly, look, it might just be me, I'm pretty informal, but I think you can mostly use contractions in emails as well. In fact, it's definitely much easier to read something that is written the way that people speak. The actual question you should ask yourself in terms of contractions is not, is this a casual situation? Can I slide into contractions? It's actually very, very different. It's, am I trying to be so cold, so impersonal that I want to sound a little bit robotic and not use contractions? Kind of like how computers love to stick to the vouvoiement in French. We might often see notifications from our computers not using contractions, but given that even ChatGPT is using contractions, you can allow yourself to do it too. But I think something else that stops English learners from really using contractions is that when we speak a second language, we're often so focused on word to word that we don't stop and think about the bigger picture, right? We might be thinking of the word can, then not. We say the words before we realize, I could have said can't. The same thing happens to me in French all the time with que, il. I always write que, il, and then I think, oh my gosh, I need to write qu'il. So I think one of the best ways to overcome this is, big surprise, keep consuming natural content. Keep practicing those natural phrases together. Learn the word can't instead of cannot, because to be honest, I cannot remember the last time I wrote cannot. Please enjoy your period dramas. Enjoy your Bridgerton, whatever else you like to watch, but don't try to speak like them, because you will not sound very natural. You will not sound like a Viscount. You'll just sound a bit strange. I'm kidding, no one's gonna run away, but you know, we want to sound natural, so okay, yes, no one's gonna, yes, fine, good. And for more tips on how to sound more natural in English, check out this video next. Bye!